The New York Jets are more than likely looking at offensive tackle at the number 10 spot, but who should the New York Jets be looking at? What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to be talking about the offensive tackle class, and we're going to be talking about these 5 guys who happen to be the top 5 tackles that I have on my big board. We're going to go over each individual one of them, why they're a fit for the New York Jets, maybe why they're not a fit for the New York Jets, and what does the New York Jets big board look like at the offensive tackle position in compared to what maybe the consensus might be when it comes to this offensive tackle class. And let's jump right in and let's be real honest about the possibility of getting all 5 of these guys. When we're looking at, these 4 guys, there is a real chance, more than likely, that all 4 of them are going to be available at 10. And you're going to have the pick of the litter. Which one of these 4 guys do you want? Which one do you think is the best player? Who's the best fit for the New York Jets? The outlier here is obviously going to have to be Joe Alt, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, who's now is building up more steam that might be able to make it to 10 for the New York Jets, but more than realistically is going to be taken beforehand. So let's talk about Joe Alt, who is clearly offensive tackle number 1 in this class, in my opinion. He's just overall, I think, the best offensive tackle. I think he's the best pass blocker. I think he's arguably the best run blocker. Maybe not the best run blocker, but when you look at his overall body of work, there isn't really a hole in his game. I think he has the highest floor of any of these offensive tackles. I think he can play left tackle and right tackle at an insanely high level, and you're just getting a high character individual. This is a human being that's going to come onto your offensive line, probably immediately going to get a C, just like he did at Notre Dame, and he's just going to do his job every day at an incredibly high level, and I think that's all you can really ask for when you're talking about an offensive tackle. Now, why has Joe Alt to 10 started picking up more steam? Well, because if you look at the draft order of the 9 teams that are in front of the New York Jets, there is a real possibility that none of those 9 teams take a tackle. I know a lot of people have Joe Alt penciled into Tennessee, but with Brian Callahan being hired as their head coach, that has been thrown into the wrench a little bit. They did just take a first-round tackle last year that they're playing at guard. Maybe Brian Callahan sees Peter Skoronski a little bit differently and sees him as a tackle. You also take into consideration they did just give a big paycheck to Andre Dillard, and they do have Nicholas Petit-Frere, who they drafted a couple of years ago there. But I think the most important thing is that when Callahan was the offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals, and they were in a similar position to be able to take the best offensive tackle off the board or one of the best wide receivers off of the board, they went wide receiver instead of offensive tackle. And really, the only problem on their offensive line is at left tackle. And you can find one in free agency where you're probably not going to want to pay a ton of money for a wide receiver in free agency with the DeAndre Hopkins contract and everything like that. So while still unlikely, it is not out of the realm of possibility. And Joe Alt is the only player, well, I guess not named Marvin Harrison Jr., that I would sprint to the podium at 10 with. I'm not entertaining a single trade offer, nothing. If Joe Alt is there, the pick is in the second the New York Jets are on the clock, and that's how I would go about that situation. Joe Alt is the answer at offensive tackle, and I would love for him to be a New York Jet, but that's unrealistic. So let's talk about these 4 guys and see which one of these 4 guys the New York Jets should seriously consider. Now, if you look at this graphic that I have up on the screen, they go in order of what my big board is for the offensive tackle. It goes Joe Alt, Olu-Fashanu, Talise Fuwanga, Armarius Mims, and Tyler Guyton. That's offensive tackle 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on my big board. And I think that should be what a lot of people's big boards end up looking like. Some people like J.C. Latham more than I do. I don't have J.C. Latham listed as a tackle on my board. I think he is destined to play guard. And that's a conversation for a different video. These are my top 5 offensive tackles. Now, this is pretty standard when you look at the consensus. There isn't a lot that's going to change here, but there is one thing that you have to take into consideration. The consensus is just saying, who's the best player, not what's the best fit. And when you take the New York Jets into consideration and the fit, I think you're going to have to swap these two guys around. I think you're going to have to move Olu Fashanu to offensive tackle 3 and Talise Fuanga to offensive tackle 2. Now, why is that? Well, let's talk about these two guys and let's compare and contrast them and why the New York Jets might value a guy like Talise over Olu at number 10. Let me be clear. I would be happy with either one of these guys. And if I was going to make the pick, I would probably take Talise Fuanga. Now, why am I going to take Fuanga over Fashanu, and why might the New York Jets do the same thing? Well, it's all about the floor. When they come in years 1 and 2, who's going to be the better player? And I think that when you look at the body of work of Talise Fuanga and Olu Fashanu, years 1 and 2 are going to be better for Talise, while years 3 to 15 are probably going to be better for Olu. Now, if Olu is going to end up probably being the better player, why would I or why would Joe Douglas want to take Talise Fuanga? Well, the answer is quite simple. We have a 2-year window with Aaron Rodgers. He said that he wants to play this year and that there is a possibility that he might come back next year. If that's the case, you need to get the best player that's going to be able to play with an incredibly high floor in years 1 and 2. And Talise Fuanga provides that. I think Talise Fuanga is probably the best run blocker in this class. He is no chump when it comes in the pass game. He fits our offensive line scheme perfectly as a zone blocking player, and has shown us that, the thing that he kind of struggled with in college was pass protection on best reps at the Senior Bowl, absolutely dominated at an incredibly high level. And so when you're coming into the draft and you can tell me, look, no, by year 5, year 6, he's not going to be a top 10 tackle in the NFL. But you know what? He is never going to be a problem. He's not going to miss time. And the guy is just going to be solid day in and day out and is just going to be a mauler in the run game, stout in the pass game. You can't really pass up on that, especially with the 2-year window that we have with Aaron Rodgers. Now, when you look at a guy like Olu Fashanu has insanely high pass blocking chops, one of the best pass protectors in this class. I think he's second only to Joe Alt when it comes to just passing reps. However, he does struggle a little bit moving forward, and when you grade him out and you evaluate him projecting to the NFL, one, he is a true left tackle. You're not going to want to put him at right tackle or left. You're only going to want to put him at left tackle. Same thing with Talise Fuanga, but on the opposite side. He is a true right tackle. You're not going to want to put him on the left side, so you have to have that conversation about, do you want a left tackle or a right tackle and all that stuff. And so when you evaluate that out and you say, okay, he's going to be a left tackle at the next level, but he's also probably going to struggle with NFL speed and power when it comes to the run game and the passing game, and is going to need a little bit of time of development. Do you want to put a player who's going to need time to develop on the blind side of Aaron Rodgers so that he can't see or sense? He's going to have to, sense the pressure coming because he's not going to be able to totally see it. And that's where I think the hitch comes in with Olu over Talise. One is if Talise struggles in pass protection, which is something that I expect he's probably going to do at the next level just a little bit, at least it's coming from the direction of Aaron Rodgers' eyesight. He's going to be able to see the pressure coming in and climb the pocket and manipulate the pocket to do those things to help Talise Fuanga out. Whereas if Olu is on the other side and struggles with the rep, he's not going to be able to see that pressure coming and could take a pretty mean hit from that side. And so when you're balancing that out, I think you have to take the floor over the ceiling. And that's why I think the New York Jets board probably goes Joe Alt, Talise Fuanga, Olu Fashanu, and then Amarius Mims and Tyler Guyton. Now, what about these two guys? Where do they come in? We know that these are the top 3 tackles in this class. The New York Jets can easily walk away with one of these guys at 10. Why do we care about those guys? Well, the reality is that 10 is probably for sale. The New York Jets don't have a second-round pick at all, and dropping back in this draft class would open up a ton of possibility for the New York Jets to accumulate more draft capital, specifically the second-round pick that we lost in the Aaron Rodgers trade, and still get a really high-level tackle for the New York Jets. Now, here's the problem. If you're looking for a left tackle in this class and that's all you want, you don't want a right tackle, you need a left tackle, you need a left tackle, you need a left tackle, these are the only two guys that you're really going to be able to take that you can comfortably start at left tackle day one in the NFL. These guys are all right tackles, and they should probably stay at right tackles. Now, while Marius Mims and Tyler Guyton, I think, have this skill set to move to the left side, you're definitely not going to do that day one, and you're definitely going to transition them in that direction. Now, why is it that you don't feel comfortable with these guys, and why, if it's up to me, I wouldn't trade back out of 10 if it means that we would have to take one of these guys? Is because of the floor. I think their floors on these guys are much, much lower, even though the ceilings are much, much higher. I think Amarius Mims only played 7 games of football last year, and before that, he did not play a ton of games either. And so that lack of experience is something that you do have to worry about. But that's not even the problem. The problem is that his tape is insanely good, and he doesn't have the playtime to match the tape that's insanely good. The guy can hand battle. The guy can do everything, and you should not be 6'7", 340 pounds and move the way that he does. It's insane. He fits the size and athletic profile that the New York Jets would love in an offensive tackle. But how comfortable do you feel with the fact that, one, he was injured just this past season and missed weeks 4 to 10? He missed 6 weeks of football at Georgia, and 2, just doesn't have a ton of experience playing. You know that he got quality reps because he was at Georgia, but how much does playtime affect your evaluation? That matters. And then you look at Tyler Guyton, and Tyler Guyton is the enigma of this draft class, because when you watch the tape and when you see what he was able to do at the Senior Bowl, man, does Tyler Guyton scream one of the best tackles in the NFL, right? He's got all of those intangibles and even some of the measurables and things that you want to see from a guy 6'7", 330 pounds, and just can handle. He's got it all. But the problem with a guy like Tyler Guyton is that in 10 years, you're going to either have a conversation of, boy, was he a draft steal, he's the best tackle from this class, he's one of the best tackles in the NFL, or he's going to be a backup somewhere, and it's going to be like, wow, was he a reach in the first round? And I don't really see a middle ground there. He screams boomer bust. And in a year that is so important, in a year that you got to get the pick right, I think it comes down for the New York Jets is you got to come away with one of these 3 guys. You got to come away with Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, or Talise Fuanga. And I think that the New York Jets big board probably goes Joe Alt, Fuanga, Fashanu, because you have to take into consideration years 1 and 2 of these players' performance, not really caring about years 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So let me know, what do you guys think about this offensive tackle class? Who do you want the New York Jets to take at number 10? And do you think they should trade back? And would you feel comfortable with some of the later tackles in this class? Let me know in the comment section below. And last but not least, go Jets.